welcome to another Ironside Take30 for BI. Today's Take30 is going to focus on improving your analytics ROI with embedded analytics. And for the agenda, we're going to talk about upcoming events and then do some introductions. We're going to talk about what is embedded BI, walk through some typical use cases, some considerations you should have when thinking about using embedded BI, talk about specifics about integrations by vendor, and then we've got a demo for you with Power BI and I think Cognos. And then we'll open it up for Q&A. Okay, so first, today's panelists are Susan Ma and Michael Vollmer. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves. Susan, go ahead.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Michael,
go ahead.
So Susan's a technical manager on my team. She's been with Ironside for over a decade. Michael is a senior BI consultant and has been here for, I think, 7 years. And they are the experts on the Ironside team as it comes to embedding BI tools. All right, in terms of upcoming sessions, we've got on March 11th, Building Trustworthy AI, hosted by a data scientist. March 18th, Data Strategy, the Benefit of Planning and Developing a Data Roadmap. And then on the 25th, we're going to talk about IBM Cloud Pak for Data and with some specificity around Watson Knowledge Catalog 3.5. So we'll look forward to those sessions. Hope we see you then. All right, so what is embedded BI? I came up with this quote, the integration of business intelligence solutions within business process applications or interfaces. So embedded BI is about putting capabilities such as interactive dashboards, reporting, predictive analytics, data analysis, and more within existing business applications. This is different from traditional BI because rather than being a standalone application, it puts all the capabilities of business intelligence directly within the application on which the users already rely. All right, so we talk about some typical embedded use cases here. One would be the integration of data and analytics into the applications used by specific personas. So one example might be embedding historical client information into a customer service rep application, right? So if you think of a call center, the ability for that CSR to pull up the historical client information in a quick report, the outcomes there are going to be improved decision-making based on readily available customer insights. You're also going to have higher levels of user adoption of the BI tool because, again, you're putting it in the place that users are working in, right? Another one would be the integration of analytics into a service or a solution provider in application. So one example might be enhancing software by embedding analytic components into an application. The outcome there would be providing your users with analytics without having to build your own, right? So certainly we have seen this in years past with Cognos, where it's OEM'd into various vendor tools. And then the last one is the integration of data into your website or portal. So let's take the example of perhaps a nonprofit land trust, right? So they want to help those who come to their website understand perhaps giving statistics, right? So people making donations and things of that nature. They could they could leverage a BI report, embed that into their website, and it looks like a seamless, it's a very seamless integration of data. Okay. So with that, I will turn it over to Susan to talk about things you should consider.
Thanks, Scott. Before you guys start, this is the top kind of areas you go think about. The first one is, how do you want to integrate your application with your BI platform, right? The most challenging things we have seen will be the security. Oftentimes the integration will involve your external users, right? Plus internal users as well, right? So the security will be the most challenging things you got to think about. Let's say you have an application in cloud, you have your Power BI or you have your calculus in-house. The very first things you got to think about, how do I allow users to see my BI, platforms? The second things you can think about is what are the function features I want my, end user to see, right? Majority of the time you do see kind of 90% features from the native applications, and you can embed to your website as well. But sometimes the function will be dramatically different, right? Because the API could be different. The third one, you're going to think about where you're going to host it. Are you going to host it on your own, or are you going to put it in cloud? For instance, Power BI, you pretty much don't have that much choice to host your own, right? You could, but the functionality will be dramatically different, right? And for calculus, pretty flexible, right? You can put on IBM Cloud, you can put it in AWS, all the place you want, right? And the last you're going to think about is the cost. How much cost really will be, right? In general speaking, you can embed in your application with a single service account, but that doesn't mean you only pay one single user's license. Especially when today, you go to cloud, most of cloud hosting, application servers will require to pay by clicks, at least. Next one. Okay, let's talk about security integration. As I'm saying, this is the first thing you're going to think about what to do with the application, between your application and Kagos or whatever BI platform you have, right? You're going to check what's your hosting server's security, whether you can allow you to do single sign-on between different applications, right? The second one will be, how are you going to authenticate your users? Are you going to using a single source account, or are you going to make every single users to log into your BI platform, right? And how do you want the user to see the data? Are they going to see the same data or different data, right? For instance, maybe you have a generic report, right? You just say, everybody see the same data. I don't care, right? But in oftentimes, right, you're going to say, no, I'm not going to allow each user to see the same data, right? They may see different report. They may see, different level of data, right? They may even see different prompt, right? So that's a pretty kind of common question you're going to ask, right? And the last one will be, how are you going to do the user management, right? Once you open up your BI platform to your external users, yes, they probably don't log into your system, but you still have to manage those users, right? Typically, they can log into your portal first, and then behind the scene, you're using whatever single sign on to make it happen, so the users actually get into your BI platform. But you still have to manage these users. You don't open your BI platform or your application freely to anybody, on the website, right? Oftentimes from the past, we see, other customers, you may also get audited by your vendors. For instance, I did one for large customers. We use SDK to embed in the solution. It's been running for years until later on, IBM, realized, this particular customers using SDK to log into, Kagos. And then they say, okay, I want to really know how many users you actually consume this, Kagos report. We want to check that because, strictly to say, the people still consuming, Kagos report indirectly, right? Okay, next one. Functionality, right? As I mentioned, right? Embedding, typically you can see probably 90% of function can be available through embedding, but sometimes could be missing. So you really need to dig into details. What are the most important things you want to look at, or you want to enable your end users, to see those functionality, right? I think Power BI have a very thorough list on the website. You can go through each one and tell you in very details which ones are available, which ones are not available. For AWS Kickstart, you probably don't have option to host on your own, so you just look at whatever they offer, right? For Kagos, as I said, very flexible, and typically Kagos will give you pretty much 100%, which is great, right? License and cost. As I mentioned, license cost. At first, you may think it's pretty easy, right? You get a one single account, log into your system. You think just single account cost, but every single vendor have a different kind of license model for the embedding. For instance, Power BI, we will ask you how you will embed it. You have to purchase certain amount of capacity or certain amount of license to be able to do the embedding. Power BI at a minimum required to have a pro license to do the master account to the embedding. And then if you only have, let's say, 20 users to do the embedding, then you're probably fine. But if you have 20,000 to consume your Power BI report, then you got to think about, oh no, I cannot pay 20,000 clicks per day, right? You have to go to up level, go to capacity based, which means you potentially can have unlimited clicks. You just buy a pool of license. And the hosting is another thing you got consider as well, right? Power BI give you cloud hosting. You could hosting on your own as well. For AWS, pretty much you don't have any hosting on your own. Tableau, Kagos, you can do on your own as well. So a lot of selection there. I think the hosting will depend on the cost. Plus, look at your whole entire organization's cloud, which is data center kind of competing as well, right? Today, many people try to move everything to cloud, right? And you got to talk with your ITs to see whether Kagos, BI, Tableau, whatever BI platform you have going to cloud or not, right? That could be part of your overall IT strategy, right? Not just your single BI platform changes. Okay, next one. Okay, so we talk about technical stuff, right? How actually doing those, embedding. Each vendor here lists the top ones we have to deal with have pretty wide option for you to do the embedding. For instance, Kagos. It's very mature, solid, BI tools, right? So this one probably offer you variety of options you can do with embedding. You can do full SDK, which Kagos famously support both .NET and Java. I think 99% I can see customers can use either of this programming language to do the embedding, right? This is full programming API. In the case you cannot do Java or .NET, you could convert easily to a web services. Kagos also offers its own web service called Matchup Services. It's pretty much already built in. You do not have to do any coding, just call it, right? So pretty flexible. I think last year also Kagos released the new JavaScript API for dashboard and the new REST API for you to manage kind of Kagos content dashboard as well. It's pretty new, pretty cool. It gives you more flexibility to do additional kind of API stuff with the new dashboard, exploring those new capabilities. Power BI is the next one we see pretty popular as well. As you can imagine, right, Microsoft it's pretty much .NET oriented, right? So you do have option to using REST API, which is easy to do for any language, right? Even JavaScript, you can consume REST API. The only kind of limitation there is you have to use in pretty much .NET code to do your session token first, right? To get into your system behind the door, right? Because probably are typically hosting on cloud. So once you get into there, you can use REST API, JavaScript API to do whatever you need. Power BI JavaScript is very rich. It gives you almost 100% control of all the report dashboard, which means you can do bi-direction communication between your reports and your applications, right? You can change everything on demand. You can change the filters behind the scene before the user see the data. You can change page navigations. We will show in our demo. You can show and hide any object within the dashboard as well. So with this rich API, it really kind of give you a full control of a web page, and plus Power BI embedded page return as a true HTML kind of objects. You can additional, using the standard HTML, coding stuff to change all the, embedded page itself. Okay, let's go to the next one, which will be the Tableau. Tableau is similar to Power BI. If you look at the API itself, it offers REST API, JavaScript API as well. The REST API also give you the capability to manage any content within in Tableau as well. The JavaScript, I think, are almost identical to Tableau, based on our experience, right? I think the only limitation for Tableau I can see is the single sign-on. Tableau will typically support AD, LDAP, those common ones very well. And if you do use this, great, easy to do. For all other kind of security provider, you may have to, using like an OpenID or SAML-based, single sign-on to make it work. So that's only part I think a little bit tricky there. But I believe Tableau do offer they call like a ticket trust server authentication, which means you configure Tableau security trust with your whatever applications to basically make the two servers talk to each other as a trusted buddy, right? So they can talk with each other. The next one is the biggest one, AWS Kickstart, right? Amazon as the most top, cloud hosting, vendor. The AWS Kickstart actually give you pretty wild, API to use, which is incredible, right? They offer pretty much any language you can think about: Java, Data, Python, C++, even JavaScript, which other vendor you typically don't offer you to do authentication through JavaScript. But AWS does. You could do server-side JavaScript to do the token, right? That's a critical part, as I mentioned. Once you get your token, you get into the system, and then you can, do whatever you need, right? At this point, AWS Kickstart JavaScript API maybe a little behind, Tableau, Power BI, but you definitely can do all of dynamic stuff as well. You can pass in parameters, right? You can change its size, you can change the navigations. I think a shoe and a hide might not be in the API yet, but it's on the way. Okay. Let's dig into a little bit about the security integration, since I think this is the most challenging part for every single embedding project, right? For IBM Cargos, .NET Java, if you're cool with that, you're cool, right? Otherwise, using the REST API, web service, build your own. Cargos, it's a very long, mature BI platform, so you can using a lot of security authentication here, right? I mentioned very popular ones here. You can do OpenID, AD, SAP, Salamander, pretty much everything, right? You say on the market you can do. And typically you can see is on the left side, it's your, web portal or whatever application you have. In the middle, you have SDK or REST API. It's a client. Typically, it's a client application you're going to do. Essentially, you get your token. Or you can enable single sign between your application and Cargos, so you can directly go through this, UI interface. Behind the scene, Cargos have 3 tiers, as we all know, right? The gateway typically is the part the client application talk to the Cargos, right? Unless you're really embedding for your internal applications, you go to Cargos dispatcher, directly, which is not recommended because you basically bypass the gateway, which should supposed to protect your Cargos application server, right? But in some cases, we do. I actually did a couple customers with that for their internal application to talk because their gateway is locked on it's put in DMZ, security zone. It's really hard for them to get through, the door. So Kafka kind of flexible, right? You can go to gateway or you can go to dispatches. And either case, once you get in there, you can grab any Kafka's content from there. Okay. So next one, let's look at another vendor. This is Power BI. As I mentioned, in Power BI, it's mostly .NET driven, right? So the first thing you're going to do is try to using, .NET to grab a session token, right? Typically, your user go to your browser first, and you're gonna write some magic code behind the scene. And Power BI today it's locked down by AAD, right? So behind the scene, either you set up what do you call it, Must Pro user account, or you're gonna use a service account. Either case, it gives you capability to generate a token on the fly. So once you get that token, you attach to your code, you should be able to access, Power BI content directly. If you do host your own, or you have a local reporting server, I think it probably would be much easier. But as I mentioned, if you have a local report server, a lot of features are not there, right? Once you see the demo, I can show you pretty much the difference. Okay, let's go to the next one. Kickstart, right? Kickstart, as I said, mainly can only be hosted on AWS cloud environment, right? You do not have option to host your own. The authentication, it's just kind of similar to Cognos, right? It support a lot of common used security authentication provider, right? You can use in SAML, Okta, Ping, everything you can think about. Once you get a token, AWS is pretty easy. It gives you a generate URL and with the token attached. And then once you get a token, you can get into AWS, portal, get out the report. The token only can be used one time. That's a limitation. You cannot reuse. And AWS, I believe, have a nice feature. You actually can allow every single user to log into AWS directly. You just have to kind of generate user account first, and at runtime you allow each user to log in AWS directly behind the scene. So that's kind of a unique feature. Okay, next one is Tableau. This is a typical Tableau kind of trust tickets, which Tableau and your application will have a trust relationship, right? The ticket will be generated behind the scene for you based on your configuration. Once that is established, user can directly navigate to any Tableau report behind the scene. So this is a pretty unique feature as well. I think Kaggle probably have similar feature as well. You could have like a trust single sign-on setup. So similar concept. Okay. I think we're ready for demo.
Yep. Okay. So Susan's gonna run the demo, and certainly Michael will chime in. But we do invite you to try our Power BI embedded demo, which is available at that URL. We've put that URL into the chat window, so you can look for it there. So let me give presenter to Susan.
Okay.
1 second.
Yeah, everybody try to log in first to see what it did. If you get arrow, show me.
There you go, Susan.
To my screen.
All right, we can see it.
Yep.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I go back to the screen. So this is the Power BI report you're gonna see from the embed page. So from Power BI Online, you can see the report itself, right? You have navigation page here. You have Power BI navigation menu on the left, and you at top have all those stuff, right? So you can do whatever you want within Power BI. And let's see Power BI embedding page. If you guys on this page, go ahead, put your name there. And we do ask you to log in with your kind of email address provide your name and your company's name. It should be good to go. Oh, it seems maybe too many people there. Seems kicking me out. Let me try one more time. Here we go. So in this embedded page, we enable the new Power BI, which is called a new look, right? All the tab page navigations on the left. You could have options to put the navigation on the bottom, right? And you can also see we had all the filters, bookmark, all the cool stuff, which can be controlled as well. So you could have all the, let's switch to this view. We could enable this default menu bar to use it, depending on how you want you to do, right? If you allow it to save, we could add this to embed page as well, so you can save a copy. But as you know, for Power BI, save a copy may require you have a pro license, right? Same thing for the filters. You may allow user to change your filters, but if they cannot save the report, probably not really helpful, right?
Right. We can probably do an option to export. I mean, more likely if it was external facing, export would probably be the most likely functionality around it.
Right. So from the embedding page, you can do pretty much similar things you can do from Power BI, right? You can see the reactions between each, charts is still there, right?
Yeah, like if you go to the KPI overview, the second one, and then hover over really any of those gauges, you'll see that the functionality, right, all of this pop-up windows, whatever, with the custom screen tooltips and things like that, all that's available, right? So it really is Power BI report as is, right, minus the interface of Power BI. So your users, that's the beauty of embedded, right, is that they don't have to know or learn a new application because it'll be in your existing business application, right? And so they'll have the full functionality of Power BI minus a few things that there are a couple caveats. One of those is basically some customized charts. If you build some custom charts, some of those aren't supported by the SDK, but that's a very limited use case where that would be the issue.
Yeah, this is a very nice, cool feature. You can have custom tips, right? And it works in embedding very well. I think the limitation we found for embedding in this map, originally we designed this map in using, ArcGIS, but it didn't support for embedding. So,
changing.
Right. Other than that, it's pretty, see, even from this map, I think Michael did this cool, dashboard. Even from this, map report, you can do custom tips, two tips, right. Very cool.
Drill throughs, to other reports. I mean, again, you can do a full-fledged application while being embedded, and again, from a user standpoint, they don't have to know it's Power BI. And if you're not using security, then you have options to, just pass people through from a licensing standpoint. It's an inexpensive way to share content. Again, just depending on if you have role level security in your data set, it uses that too, right? So again, you don't have to build a report any differently. I think that's the key here, is that you don't have to do anything different in the report to really make it external or to make it embedded, right? So you can embed any report that's already built in Power BI. Again, there's only a couple little very minor things that don't work with the embedded, and one of those was the ArcGIS charts. But outside of that, everything else is pretty much out of the box. So you could take any report without having to modify or do anything to the report to make it ready for the embedded. All right. Good deal.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Susan and Michael. I think we are out of time for today, but if anyone has any follow-up questions they'd like to ask, go ahead and send them to us at heretohelp@ironsidegroup.com. And thank you very much for joining. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
You guys.